Hi. Yalimutat, everyone, and good evening. Those of you who are joining us live, I'm so excited for so many of you to be able to join us tonight. My name is Fazila, and I'm so excited to be able to celebrate the Women's History Month and to be able to celebrate very incredible women who are joining me today on this live panel discussion. My name is Fazilat Nota, and I'll be your moderator and one of the panelists tonight. My profession, I'm an early childhood educator, a play activist, and I'm really excited to have tonight on this panel with me, Alicia Lulani, who is the head of growth at May Health, a venture-backed digital maternal healthcare startup focused on improving birth outcomes for the country's most vulnerable birthing people. Thank you for joining us, Alicia. And along with her, we're so excited to have Annika Jiwani, who is currently in her first year of college at Dartmouth College, where in addition to being a full-time student, she's a forward on the women's basketball team. We're so excited to have you tonight. And last but not least, we have Komal Gawani joining us tonight, who is a senior manager at Ernst & Young, specializing in finance transformation and advising the office of the CFO within the life sciences sector. Ladies, thank you for joining me tonight. I am so excited. We have incredible stories to share, and this is a great opportunity to empower young generations. And this is the time for you guys to share your experiences, your life lessons, people who have inspired you throughout your career and your personal life. And with that, we will begin. And the first question I have tonight is perhaps what is something that you have accomplished in life that you're very proud of as a woman?
Thank you, Fazila. And hi, everyone. Really excited to be here. I think that's such an incredible question because we all have so many things that we should be super excited about. For me personally, I will touch on two things. The first will be more professionally or in the education realm, being a first generation immigrant in the US and being able to take advantage of such amazing education opportunities that we have. I am the eldest, if I look at my extended family, the eldest of over 10 to 12 cousins who are all younger than me, and so excited to have set an example for them and pursuing higher education and really showing what it meant to take part and take advantage of the opportunities that we have. And that's really enabled my professional growth and break some stereotypes around women in finance, women in consulting, being in a room full of very tenured men and women, and being able to confidently speak your mind and share your perspectives. And I'm very hopeful that as I bring up my family, my two young boys, that I set a really good example that we don't really have gender norms. And I'm sorry, I get really emotional when I talk about that. But I'm sure for all of you who are parents out there, you do see that it's a little heavy on setting good examples. And so my accomplishment is that I will have boys who don't see gender norms as typical male or female.
Thank you for sharing that.
I'm happy to jump in as well. And I think for me and yelling with everyone, I think the work I'm doing now in the health tech startup space is really something I'm proud of for a couple of reasons. You know, I've always been incredibly passionate about women's health, women's equity, and maternal and reproductive health. So building and growing a company in this space is a total dream come true. I mean, I studied women's studies and global health in college, which was a long time ago, but I feel that same energy and excitement even today. And it feels like a really full circle moment to be able to do this. And I think building a venture-backed business in an environment that is highly unfavorable to women is also really something I'm proud of, right? And I think the latest stat that we have is female-founded startups receive 2.8% of venture capital funding, and less than 1% of venture capital funding goes to women of color. And I think that that's purely gender bias, right? It's because we know all the data that women-led startups actually outperform their male counterparts. But we also know that less than 10% of venture capitalists are women. And so over 90% of the folks making the decision on which companies to back, which people to back, are men. So to build a business with a founding team comprised solely of women of color, and for a business that's focused on women's health, and particularly for women of color, and to have done so successfully in an environment like that with those stats has been super hard, but also incredibly empowering.
Definitely. Thank you so much. And it kind of leads us to the next question I have. What were some of the biggest lessons you've learned from women in your life? What were some of the inspiring women who have kind of helped you get so far in your life, both professionally and personally?
Yeah, I can jump in on this one and then maybe stay quiet for a second. But I think there's a couple of things. I think so many of the important lessons have come from the women in my life. But one is being comfortable in your own skin, and that there are going to be people that appreciate and celebrate your quirkiness and your weirdness, and that's okay. You just have to seek them out, and you don't have to change who you are, but someone will appreciate and celebrate the weirdness that you have. And I think the other idea is this idea of roots and wings. And this is a notion my mother really enforced and instilled, perhaps inadvertently, but also incredibly effectively. And that's being reinforced with my daughter as well. So that the idea is all you need in life are roots and wings, roots that ground you and wings of independence and exploration. And so this is something that the women in my life, my mom, my sister, the others, really created for me. One is the roots that you can hold on to, that you ground. It's your inner values, your ethics, your community, the fact that regardless of what happens in your life, you can always come home to your people. And so you can be a total failure or you can be a total rock star, but those are the roots that ground you and remind you of where you came from. You can never get too low on yourself. You can also not get too high on yourself because there's going to be someone that brings you down, but also the idea of the wings, right? That nothing was ever out of reach, and the idea that I was capable of soaring and reaching heights that I didn't believe I could do myself. But also understanding that that growth came from exploring and independence. And so my mom, and in part due to my older sister too, who paved the path of, sure, go spend time in a foreign country by yourself, or yes, move across the country for a different opportunity. Don't stay and live in one place. Go explore, spread your wings, take the hard job, do the crazy adventurous thing, even if that means building a life and home away from those roots will be there. So go spread those wings and see what you accomplish.
Yeah, I think I can add to that. My mom, again, she's such a important part of my life. And I think just growing up in I play a sport that's like mostly a male sport. And I told my parents at a young age, this is what I want to do. I want to play basketball. No Ismaili women, no Ismaili girls do this. Not even a lot of Indian girls do this. But I think just growing up, she just taught me like whatever you want, you need to be loud about it. You need to be strong and firm about it. And that's something that she's instilled in me from a young age. Like if you want to do it, just be your biggest advocate for yourself. Like no one is going to be your biggest fan, but you. Like no one's going to lead you to it. Like you have to go out and get it, and you need to be strong in that sense and like be firm about what you want. And my mom has taught me that my whole life. Just be loud and big about what you want. So yeah, that I can just add to that.
That is so beautiful. And I can definitely resonate to that. Being a mom myself now, I often pause for a little bit. And when it comes time to make big decisions in my life, I often pause and kind of listen to my own inner voice and say, what would my mom recommend I should do at this moment? And I often hear my mom's voice in my head, and I'd be like, and I know that's kind of the route that Alicia, you kind of alluded to. It's definitely resonating with me as well, for sure. Yeah, and the third question I have is, what are some of the societal expectations or pressures you've experienced in life before? How have you navigated them? How hard or how easy has it been? being a woman in our society today?
Yeah, I think I can talk for that. I growing up, playing basketball, I'm the only Indian girl there out on the court. Um, and obviously, like I'm not bad. Like I'm doing good. And I get a lot of hate. There's a lot of hate. People don't like seeing, you know, like out of norm people doing great things. And so they hate on that. I've gotten called names. I've gotten so much hate from the outside, but I think that the pressure that I put on myself internally to do great things and be ambitious, that pressure that I put on myself kind of outweighed sort of the noise and the hate that I had received growing up. And I think just that drive, like that's really what pushed me and my ambition. And growing up, I feel like a Smiley families, they don't really put much, they don't think like the academics is great, but also there's not a good, they don't think athletics is great as well, And so luckily my family, like we were fortunate enough that my parents really bought into me, like being like, I want to play basketball at this young age. But other Ismaili families, I feel like they don't. And so I think that it's important for us, and that has opened so many doors for me. And yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And to all the friends who are watching us online right now, feel free to post your questions for any of our panelists tonight. And we got one for Erica for you specifically through our live chat. How have you managed your sports schedule with your Jamakana, REC schedule, your personal life, and everything else that goes on? How have you found the balance?
Like I said, I think having my family's support of what I want to do in life and knowing that, hey, I have a basketball game today. I can't make it to REC, but staying connected within the community is really important. And we have those the basketball tournaments. Those are always super fun. And going to Jamakana on Fridays when we can, just any opportunity when we're not busy. I think just having my family support in that was really the best thing, because it like some parents would get mad, you're not going to REC, you're not doing this. My parents were really supportive of what I wanted to do in life, and if that meant missing something, they were fine with it.
Thank you for sharing that. And I want us to pause a little bit and think about some of the challenges that women face today. What does a woman of 21st century look like today? And how could we overcome all kinds of challenges that kind of fly at her? I could perhaps begin. This makes me think of definitely gender inequality and workplace barriers that each of us face throughout literally anywhere around the world. We're still a huge kind of dilemma in mental health and women's health, and their very close connection of how women navigate a lot of things all by themselves. The other thing is, I think, a new and kind of something very new that's really becoming popular is the pressures we receive from social media as a mom and as a woman, and this unrealistic expectations of what life should be like, or what ideal mom or woman should be like, and her achievements and things that are not anywhere near the reality of many millions of women who live around the world. Any of these resonate with you guys? What do you think other challenges are there for women today?
I definitely agreed with what you're saying. And I think there is so much out there that defines how you as a woman should derive your value, right? If you are on the road all the time, if you are climbing up a corporate ladder, you are not giving it all to your family, you're a negligent mother, or you're stay at home. It must be really nice for your husband to earn that income and for you to be so financially dependent and be a lady of leisure, if you will. I think we as women it is you will never win, right? It feels like that situation because a narrative is created for you. So how do you break down those voices that are external to you and find your value with it? Be okay to know today I will show up as an incredible mother, but I'm going to be an average employee. And tomorrow I'm going to be a rock star at work, and I have a village who will take care, right? I think we all have to find what is that balance for us and be perfectly comfortable in that, irrespective of what's coming in externally, because no one else knows your situation better than you. And we
Yeah.
have to rely that those that are around us know us and are champions, and we can make those calls ourselves.
I think so.
Oh, sorry, you go.
Como, I was
You
going to
go.
say, I think that is so, I think that resonates with so many of us, right? That you can, this having it all idea, and can you be a sevadari? Can you be an employee, a colleague, a boss? Can you be a mom, a sister, a wife? How do you do all of those things at once? And the answer is you can't do it all at once super well. And I think saying that out loud and saying it more often and saying the hard things, I think is particularly important, and showing the vulnerability of, yes, today I was a rock star sevadari, right? In February, the first couple of weeks of February, like many of us, I showed up. I was a great sevadari, but I was an absentee mom for a while, right? And my daughter said, "It's not nice when you do seva all day. Come play with me," and that's okay. And I think that's hard. I think that that's the pressure we face of trying to do it all and do it well, and that's pressure we put on ourselves, and also that society puts on us. And so, how do we say it's okay, and I feel okay and comfortable knowing that I'm not going to excel every day in every one of my roles? And I think that's, candidly, I don't know if I have internalized that myself, right? To say it's okay on each day that it's going to be different, because I still give myself a hard time. And I think that that's something that we all probably face.
Yeah, I think now, like, you guys are grown women, you guys are amazing. I think that I can use that, what you guys are saying about balancing life, to young women. So personally for me, there's a kind of a difference of like what we have to worry about. Like, girls are stressed about what they see online, like what they see on TikTok, on Instagram. They feel like they're missing out. But on the other hand, they have to get great grades. And then the other hand, for me, they have to perform well on the court. And then the other hand, they want to make sure, they look good, their body looks good, everything is for what this society wants them to be. And I think that balancing all of it is such a big, big issue, especially for me. I struggle with it every day. And it's like picking when something's more important than the other, and just knowing your priorities. And I think that that's kind of the biggest struggle that girls kind of face, especially the younger generation. It's getting bigger and bigger. And I think I would say just prioritize what's really important right now in your life. That's kind of what my father taught me just growing up, just like prioritize like what is important to you right now.
Yeah, definitely. And along with that, what are some of the stereotypes you notice around every day just being a woman?
I think all of the old stereotypes and cliches and expectations still exist, right? I don't know if much has changed. There's that added layer of and the challenges of social media, but I think the stereotypes of a family and what a family should look like, or how you should conduct yourself, and what, in places when you go and you're by yourself or you're traveling, right? As Como said, and everyone's like, oh, who's taking care of your child, right? Like, that's because the woman stereotypically is the caretaker and the primary caregiver. And so if you're not doing that, there's nobody taking care of your child. But that's not true in this day and age, but that stereotype still exists, and you still hear it anywhere you go, within seva positions, within work positions, externally as well. It's if you're not with your kid, who's with your kid? And that's a tough one.
I think even in the workplace, if you are a woman leader, especially if you are a people manager, how do you conduct yourself with male employees, whether you're reporting up to them or whether they're reporting up to you? There is a certain way in which, if you give feedback, if you are stern, if you hold your ground, you're considered stubborn, you're considered someone who's not flexible. And then if you are flexible, if you are open-minded, if you encourage conversations, if you encourage cohesiveness within a team, well, then you're not leading from strength. You're a pushover, right? I think it always comes back to, there is an idea of what is an ideal woman with in everyone's mind, and as they interact with you, they impose that idea that they have in their mind on you. And if you are coloring outside of those lines, it is turned around and said, oh, but that's not how you're supposed to be. And I think it took me a very long time to say, I am not supposed to be any way other than when I look in the mirror, the person who looks back at me, as long as she's comfortable, that's who I'm supposed to be. And that is a journey. And I know that it's very easy to say. And I tell a joking anecdote that when I moved to this country, I was 9 years old. And I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, and there is not many Smileys, and there's not many Pakistanis or Indians. And so I had to find who is como in the US. And I went through all of it. I went through all personalities. I was Hispanic. I was a goth. I was the person who had a lot of like tight hair back, low rise jeans. Like in middle school and high school, I genuinely went through this journey to find who do I fit in with, until I finally got to a point where I had to say, I don't really fit in into one mold, but I have parts and pieces of me that align with so many different things. And that's okay. I'm a mosaic, and that's perfectly okay. Right. It took a whole journey through middle school and high school. Very much so scary for my parents, who are just like, what are you doing? And I think in order for us to break stereotypes, we first have to break in ourselves that there is a mold, that there's a type to even fit into.
Yeah.
I think I think what's interesting too is there's so many places now in today's society, and I know Fazila, you asked the question, and in 21st century, there's a lot of places and spaces that women are in now that they weren't previously, and the stereotypes still exist, right? As I think professionally, again, when you're in that space with people building businesses or investors, it's usually men, and it, as you saw, right, the percentage of dollars that go to men in that space, and the idea that we should be grateful that we have space in those new places, right? Versus saying what are we owed, and what value do we bring, versus just being grateful that we're in that space. And so that idea of fighting for equity in these newer places, I think is new. And I think that's also hard. And people take offense of, oh, well, you have this position, you should be thankful. Oh, you've created this business, you got some of these venture dollars, but I didn't get enough of those venture dollars, right? And saying I need more, or I want more, from spaces where women previously weren't, or we're breaking barriers, and it's okay that you're paving the path and you're in that space, but pushing for more and taking up more space in those areas, in those arenas, I think gets a little bit, there's continues to be pushback, because you should just be lucky that you're there. And it's harder to say, no, I need to take up more space in these places as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I can definitely resonate with that on being an immigrant and mom, raising children, and then really resonating with what Komal had shared earlier. Who am I in this big abstract picture of being a volunteer, a mom, a professional, a wife, and a smiley, and I'm trying to be all of it at the same time, and raising children, and kind of while being in a nuclear setting family without outside of village support that we traditionally very much have relied on generations before us. For sure. And have you had in your journey, had any times when you've had to advocate for yourself, when you had to be the voice, you had to be the one to stand up for yourself? Anything comes up to you? Have you had any experiences?
I think it can like go back to me on the court for sure. Just, a lot of people would like just don't think that you're supposed to be there. And so they tell you a lot of things, but I think the work that I do, just putting your head down and kind of having your actions be your voice in that case. And that can go for anything when it's, if it's work. And then I think that will help me in my career. Just kind of putting your head down and showing that, you know, how good you are is the reason why you should be here. It doesn't matter like what your gender is, what your race is, what anything is. You are supposed to be there because of who you are and how good you are. So I think that.
I think sometimes, and I've definitely felt this in my earlier years in my professional career, where I felt like I should not have to advocate for myself, that my work should speak on its own, that my credibility, what I bring to the table, should be enough. And it was a very big reality check that if you are not tooting your own horn, and I think some of it comes from our raising, right? To not be arrogant, to not be, boastful. And I think I had to unlearn that in my career as I wanted to go up, because I saw people around me who I felt, right, weren't doing as great as me, that I was bringing more to the table. And that didn't matter what their gender was, but what mattered was they were good storytellers. They sold themselves. They did what was needed to make those decision makers see what was the value that they were bringing for themselves. And once I learned that, the dynamic completely changes. And it's not, and in my perspective, it's not about I need to advocate for myself because someone is pushing me down. Sometimes it's ourselves. Sometimes we are not being confident in the way we're presenting ourselves. And we have to tell ourselves to step out of that comfort zone and really showcase what we're bringing to the table. And I think that has been a self journey that is something that you kind of it's introspective. No one can do that for you. You have to understand what you are bringing to the table, and then showcase how that matches in value. And I will tell you, it is not just in the professional space, it's also in the personal space, because my husband and I have this all the time, right? We're both working professionals. We are very, very fortunate to have a strong village around us and our family around us to help us with our children. But there are most certainly days where we're both saying, we're super busy. You have to get the dinner. No, you have to get the dinner. And then we have to make the argument to each other on who's going to take turn today. Right. So it comes in small waves as well. But I think you have to learn to communicate and be a storyteller.
Yeah, for sure. And I can relate to that because I see it every day in my early childhood setting classes. It actually is this whole cultural idea of women being the quieter one, women being the one who are good listeners and good manners, and the ones who are kind of meant to play with dolls a lot more compared to balls and Legos and trucks and science toys, for example. It's very much, I think, as moms, we have to be very mindful in terms of the types of toys we expose our children to, the types of experiences we create for our children, because they will grow up to be and they will look at us as models and as examples ahead of us. And it gets very deeply rooted in you, and it's hard to break it and then kind of go beyond that role that's kind of been kind of in you for so long. Thank you for sharing that. Just one more. What advice would you give to your younger self if we went back 10 years, 15 years? What advice would you give to your young self? Like, dear me, you are so amazing. What else would you say to yourself?
Be fearless and give yourself grace. Any story that you see on anyone's Instagram is just the tip of the iceberg. What you don't see is the failures. What you don't see is the hard work. What you don't see are all the bumps, the troughs, the highs, the lows of their journey. Don't compare yourself to anyone, because no, you're not seeing anyone's full reality, just like they're not seeing yours. So be fearless and give yourself grace.
Beautiful. Alicia?
I think it's along the same veins, right? Don't be afraid to fail. And I think as women, as immigrants or children of immigrants, as first generation Americans, there's a lot of pressure we put on ourselves to make sure we're doing the right things and checking the right boxes and keeping our head down, doing the hard work and keep going. Whereas, what are the risks you could take? What are the things you could do when you say to yourself and say the hard thing out loud that I want this and I want to do this, and that's not overreaching. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's okay, because you have the roots and the like. And how do you be okay with failure and dust yourself off? And to sort of take from, Annika's perspective, have that next shot mentality. Okay, you missed that shot. It's okay. Take the next shot and do the thing, because you are going to have next shots. And I think that was something that I think I'm still learning, but I would tell my younger self that sooner.
I love that. That's amazing. I think I'm young, so I think some advice that I would give is just that, like, just don't put yourself in a box. I think that I just not being a woman, being an Indian woman, especially, I think that you don't have to be what anyone wants you to be. Like, guys at school would be like, you're not a hooper, you're not a basketball player. Like, no, I can be that. I was on Kobe Bryant's team. Like, not to toot my own horn, but like, what I'm saying? Like, you can check the guys. You can do whatever you want to do, whatever you put your mind to. And I think like Como said, like you need to like be in an environment where it's okay to not be perfect, and have those days where you doubt yourself, but don't stay there for too long. Get back on track. And stick to what you sought after.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to thank all of you for your time this evening, for taking all the time out of your very busy schedules and to be able to share your stories with us tonight. It was deeply inspiring and really, really nice to hear all of you. And I want to encourage everyone to celebrate women every day, not just in the month of March, and continue to push barriers, continue to build the way for future generations to come. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the Women's Celebration Month. It's just a few more days left, but it was an absolute joy to have you join me today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Allahu, 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 Allah, Allah.